welcome to another countdown. So guys, Season 4 has come and went, and let me say this is by far my favorite season of the show. The creators played their trump card with Princess Twilight, the new animation, the Equestria games, the new animation, a mysterious box, and holy crap, this animation. So, as you can tell, I'm a big fan of this season. But I will admit it had problems. Hasbro showed its ugly toy selling face a couple times with the breezy ponies and the ponies getting megas. And also the pony norm of episode quality being all over the place stayed here for a season. If you're not catching on, this show has a bit of an embarrassing concentration of good and bad episodes. Now, all cartoons have their duds, and there's definitely more good than bad. But this show has hit admirable highs and disgusting lows. And since I'm a horrible, cynical person, I feel the need to point out the lows. We can save the highs for later. So, what's to do now other than start the list? Oh yeah, it's funny how such a happy and lighthearted TV show has stirred up so much controversy in the past years. Guys, remember, this is all my personal opinion. If you happen to love all these episodes with passion, there is nothing, I repeat, nothing wrong with that. In fact, maybe you hate my favorite episode, I don't know. I'm also not going to be the arrogant jerk who has to call your opinions objectively wrong. If you're going to pull some BS because your favorite episode was on here, you should just leave. Oh yeah, and die, because you're breathing the air of those competent human beings. One more thing. I like much more from the show than I hate. The only other jerk was to hate everything just to stand out. Alright, get your flying goggles on, because this will be an interesting ride. Let's begin.
Oh Manhattan, what have I done? The thought of Fashion Week was fun.
You know what I hate? Hypocrites. Sure, we all have our hypocritical moments, but that doesn't mean we don't ignore them. The Mysterious Mare-de-Well, everybody. God, I hate this episode. Alright, the premise is that Rainbow Dash is starting to be a citizen hero, helping out others who get into trouble. Wow, good for you, Rainbow Dash. Saving people for no cost.
Rainbow Dash! Rainbow Dash!
Yeah, still, good for you. I don't care if she's bragging, she still deserves some recognition for saving people's lives. Oh, and it seems her friends seem concerned about her.
Awesomely heroic that day and awesomely arrogant ever since.
Oh, how about you ask her? And not to mention they decided to shoehorn in a mystery that we all knew the answer to by the leaking dam scene. That color seems awful familiar. Oh look, she's flying. Wow, how peculiar. And they only shoved it in your face more in the scene where the main six are talking about how great Mare-de-Well is. At that point, they're not even hiding it. Oh, and let's not forget that the world hates Rainbow Dash now, so we need to take all of her talent away. When Mare-de-Well suddenly comes in, all of a sudden Rainbow Dash sucks at everything. Now, some may argue it's because she's being pressured. It doesn't make sense. Rainbow still shows she has complete faith in her abilities. How about the fact that Rainbow can't slow down a rolling carriage but can catch a falling platform that 4 people were standing on? And let's talk about the moral. Don't show off. That is so cliche. Listen, as I said earlier, she is saving lives, and I feel she should be able to enjoy the recognition. And the main six are totally in the wrong to teach it. How should we teach Rainbow Dash to stop bragging? Oh, how about we best her? No, humiliating your friend multiple times isn't the smart way. The smart way is talking to her about it.
Oh Manhattan, what have I done? The thought of Fashion Week was fun.
While Season 4 was airing, there wasn't much to be excited for. Sure, there was that one Weird Al episode coming up, but by that time we knew nearly nothing about that. The only other interesting episode coming was Power Ponies. Well, fueled hype until we found out the writers for the episode. Charlotte Fullerton and Betsy McGowan. Charlotte Fullerton, my least favorite writer from the show, is teaming up with a writer from Johnny Test, a trash dream team. However, Megan McCarthy, my second favorite writer from the show, tried to wake it up. She did not. This episode feels very confused. I think it's because 3 writers with a very different idea try to make a collaborative effort. This episode feels really all over the place. Okay, let me go into detail. It starts out with Spike just reading a comic book at night. Twilight wakes him up, and we're treated to some pointless exposition that isn't even subtle about where this episode would go. For example, before the plot starts 7 minutes in, Spike keeps talking about how there's one useless character named Humdrum who doesn't do anything except beat dents and ruin everything. Now, this is somewhat respectable, taking a shot at the fact that Spike is a character that is just there. But there's one problem. It's not a fact. Twilight totally pulled through and ended up saving the Crystal Empire on her own. Also, she was able to remain stable with her new forwarding Equestria girls. Yeah, spike this Jack. This episode would have worked much better with Fluttershy. Isn't she the one who feels bad about herself and has low self-esteem? Anyway, so the next day they're working on the castle. Spike is whining about Humdrum, and Twilight offers him to read his book. So he reads it, and the book ends on a cliffhanger. All that is left is a small note. Spike decides to read it, and suddenly he and the main six get sucked into a comic book. And surprise, surprise, they're the Power Ponies. And the big shock of it all is that Spike is Humdrum. Okay, let me talk about the powers. Pinkie Pie goes fast. It contributes almost nothing to the plot except for some weak comedic gags. Applejack get a load with this. A psychic lasso. Not only is that stupid, it seems nostalgic and use a normal lasso better. Fluttershy is the whole parody, we'll get to that later. Rainbow Dash has the ability to create tornadoes and create weather in general. Rarity is able to create anything that comes to her mind. It is the only power that has some creativity. Twilight gets the ability to shoot elemental beams. Only elemental beams. Meanwhile, Twilight is weaker. In the show, ever since she's become an alicorn, she has shown to have a variety of powerful magic abilities. Now, she only shoots beams. This is where the problem of the episode comes to light. Things happen against logic because why not? Applejack, Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, and Twilight all seem to have trouble with their new powers. This doesn't make sense because these powers are based on them in real life. Applejack is a cowgirl, Rainbow Dash is a Pegasus who moves clouds and creates weather, Twilight has magic abilities, and Fluttershy is dangerous when she's angry. I already talked about Pink, so that leaves us with Rarity. When the ponies were trapped in the tornado, Spike told Rarity to do something, and she creates a tea set. Really? Are you kidding me? And later, main six are struggling with their powers. Rarity is suddenly a master. The sad thing is, creating something out of nothing is the farthest power the character gets in their personality. But it is mastered first bar Pinkie Pie. Another defiance of logic is Flutterwolf. Fluttershy really needs to get angry to enter the form, but she can't. She sees her friends hurt, and oh so meaningful friends, and she does nothing. What makes her angry is when the villain hurts a Firefly. Not someone Fluttershy never ever knew or cares about, a Firefly. And her transformation is a really bad executed scene. And let's touch over the villain. Her plan is never explained well enough to understand. Moving on. I keep thinking about how this episode should be higher, but then I realized it has some decent moral value. The concept was pretty cool, and it really isn't that painful to watch.
Oh Manhattan, what have I done? The thought of Fashion Week was fun.
Oh hey again, Charlotte Fullerton, welcome back! Oh believe me, this isn't the last time you're going to be on here. If someone asks, what's the problem with Charlotte Fullerton? The answer is that she seems to not really care where her episode goes, as long as she gets the ending she wants. May the best pet win. Let me just throw in this non-flying animal, unlike what Rainbow asked, because I wanted to be your pet. But the worst contender in my opinion is Look Before You Sleep. You want a slumber party episode about accepting differences? Okay, you make everyone out of character, make Rarity and Applejack not be friends anymore, you make Twilight incredibly stupid, and you make Spike go on royal business. When it begins, there's a storm coming up, and Applejack is getting dirty, taking down loose branches, and Rarity doesn't want to get dirty. They end up in an argument that probably will decrease your intelligence.
Does so, does not. Does so, does not. Does so, does not. Does so infinity. Ha!
Professional, skilled business owners, everyone. Some may say this pisses me off more than it should, but it really does get on my nerves. When they're done bickering, the storm intenses, and Twilight invites them in. After that, we get into mediocre gags about slumber parties. The classic truth or dare, pillow fight, ghost story, s'mores, hair curling, all with a pointless spin of Applejack and Rarity getting pissed off at each other and being annoying. On the topic of Twilight wanting a slumber party, unlike others, I can kind of believe that. What I can't believe is that she's always wanted one. No, she used to be antisocial. Speaking of antisocial, it seems Fullerton translates that into a full-on sociopath or something. Even if someone is antisocial, I think they can still pick up on emotion. Charlotte, Twilight isn't stupid. She's a sociopath. Oh wait, you realize that. Because halfway through the episode, Twilight decided to turn on her intelligence again, and she yells at them. Oh wait, you fell back in the hole of stupidity, because then Twilight is searching a slumber party guide for the answer to a tree falling in her own house. And that's why I don't like this episode. It just painfully throws everything together with little to no thought in the middle. I know this part isn't nearly as long as my last section, but the flaws of this episode are much more straightforward. Now, excuse me, I'm gonna go watch a manly action movie.
Oh Manhattan, what have I done? The thought of Fashion Week was fun.
Let's talk about Spike. First of all, Spike is a mistreated character. He's the butt of useless slapstick, he's an idiot, and basically has very few good episodes. Hell, we've already had one on the list. But why does Spike have so many bad episodes? It's a hard question. But with a bit of thinking, I think I found an answer. It's the fact that it seems everyone thinks Spike is a ditzy comic relief. One of the biggest mistakes a writer can do is give an episode just a full-on comic relief. Look at Cars 2, for example. Then you look at Spike's appearances in episodes written by Megan McCarthy. In those, he's a great voice of reason and assistant to Twilight, and he helps her out in her time of need. Now, McCarthy didn't write this next episode. Spike was a generally good character in Owl's That Ends Well. In fact, I like the 5 minutes of episode where Spike is being a good friend and being appreciated for it. It really makes me content. When you watch the rest of the episode, it starts to feel like the good parts was just everyone lying. I'm not kidding. Whatever they praise Spike for, Aloysius gets more. For God's sakes, he already makes a bow for him before they even met. This is supposed to replicate another scene where the main six were doing the same thing with Spike, and Twilight says no one can replace him. Aloysius is supposed to only help during the night, but almost all the episode takes place during the day, and Twilight says no one can replace him. See where I'm going with this? I can't believe this episode takes place mostly during the day. The only time when it's night is the beginning and the end. Other than that, we have a huge chunk of Spike being tortured. What about that one scene where Twilight wants out of quills, so Spike runs out of the room, eager to get a quill for her. She looks at the window and calls his name, hoping that he will hear in return. However, he does not. So, Spike spends a couple hours looking for quills until he eventually gets all scratched up in the aftermath of fighting a chicken. He comes back, and Twilight is using one of Aloysius' feathers for a quill. Do you see why I hate this episode? It's a jealousy story. How many of those end up good? Very few. All of these stories are the same. An obnoxious Mary Sue comes in, and an innocent, realistic character gets his pride taken away, and ends up feeling like crap. Okay, I'm gonna take a nap. Wake me up when this plot is done right.
Oh, Manhattan, what have I done? The thought of Fashion Week was fun.
She's an evil enchantress. She does evil dances. And if you look deep in her eyes, she'll put you...
Stop! Oh boy. So far, most of the episodes I went over are for the most part unanimously hated by the fandom. But now we go to Bridal Gossip. This isn't as controversial as, say, Magical Mystery Cure, but there is quite the split. I obviously take the side against this episode. I think it sucks. Okay, it stinks. Now, I'm gonna address the elephant in the room instead of save it for later. The poison joke. I, personally, was not a big fan of the jokes made by the plant. Okay, yes, Flutter Guy was hilarious, but I honestly didn't love them as much as others did. In fact, for a joke, these pranks are kinda cruel. While Harry and Fluttershy can be classified as pranks, the others really can't. Twilight Flopple, stupid name by the way, was being disabled. So was Spitty Pie. Fun, right? It's like in Metroid where you lose all your abilities, the game's like, ha, chill bro, it's cool, it's cool. Appletini is a bit closer to prank status, but she is weaker, and as we know, someone could have stepped on her. And if you haven't seen the episode, you may be thinking that's a strange point, but the episode mentions it. Rainbow Crash pisses me off the most. Oh yeah, hilarious. Oh, by the way, pay me for damages by the end of the week. And not to mention those crashes are painful. And before you say she doesn't have to fly, disability. I know this sounds really petty, but it really does bother me. The other topic is Sakura. Outside of this episode, she's a great character, and she is here too, but I don't blame the ponies for being scared of her. Those glaring eyes, randomly staring at the ground, living in the ever-free forest, stuff like this usually screams, evil, evil! Another thing I hate about this episode is the portrayal of the characters. Rainbow Dash is ignorant and close-minded. Pinkie Pie is a moron. Applejack is an overprotective soccer mom. Rarity is a generic fashionista. We'll get to Twilight later, and Fluttershy does nothing, so no complaint there. Something I hate about this episode is the lack of subtlety. I already whined about Sakura's evilness and stuff. When the characters are looking for a cure to the poison joke, Spike shows Twilight a book. The book is called Supernaturals, and Twilight reads the cover and then discards it.
I don't care for that.
We're going over that in a racism episode where the characters meet someone of a different species, and Twilight literally judges the book by its cover. Oh yeah! Speaking of that, I cannot rest without speaking about the handling of the moral. Sakura literally explains the moral to them. That's it. And everything is nice and good and happy. And I really hate the animation of this episode. No, now wait. It's just the season 1 pony norm. And there are always mistakes in animation, but they have never caused a plot hole. Just watch this scene.
Whoa. Maybe Zecora cursed my hair.
Oh, Manhattan, what have I done? The thought of Fashion Week was fun.
Dragon Quest. Oh, hey again, Spike. Oh boy, Dragon Quest. Isn't this gonna be a fun one? Truth is, this episode can actually be very enjoyable, except for this list of things. The dragons are stereotypes, the ponies are rich Spike, they know nothing about dragons except for their migration patterns, their sleeping times, how they grow. Spike was nearly forced to murder, it's predictable, Spike is low. You know what? This is wasting time. Let's just get on with it. So the intro of the episode begins with Pinkie Pie and Applejack digging a trench while Twilight and Rainbow Dash try to get Fluttershy to join them and watch the migration. So, Rainbow brings up the fact that Fluttershy put her through some boredom with the butterfly migration, then Fluttershy attacks Rainbow and runs out of the window. So you put Rainbow in the right, and then put her through some pain and misery. What was the point? Alright, fast forward a bit, and you get to the scene where the main six, except Fluttershy, are practicing their World War I reenactment while watching the migration. Suddenly, Spike comes in with tea and cookies and is wearing an apron with a heart on it. So, Rainbow Dash starts making fun of him for doing something feminine. They all eventually say that he doesn't act like other dragons. Spike is understandably hurt and confused.
I don't act like other dragons?
Oh, not even close.
But why would you want to, Spike?
Excuse me for blatantly ripping off the mysterious Mr. Enter, but you don't act like other boys, but why would you want to? You don't act like other girls, but why would you want to? You don't act like other white people, but why would you want to? You don't act like other black people, but why would you want to? You don't act like other adults, but why would you want to? You don't act like other kids your age, but why would you want to? Excuse me for milking that line a bit, but it really offends me. Why would he want to? Well, maybe it's natural for people wanting to fit in. Someone should feel welcome to embrace their culture and relate to others who share it. Not have their friends ridicule them and tell them their kind is horrible. Now, before you say this is just not to give in to stereotypes, that moral is confused like hell. Okay, Spike, don't give in to your kind stereotype. By the way, did you know that all dragons are real dumb? Spike, you are you and you are unique. All dragons are brutish. Just find a way in being yourself. All dragons are violent beasts with no regard for life. Wait, excuse me. I was wrong right there. They aren't really telling Spike to follow his own path. Be one of us. We don't do anything bad. So, we fast forward to Spike trying to become friends with the dragons. And this part isn't as bad as the pony parts. Does that mean it's good? The dragons are all one-dimensional assholes who treat Spike like crap. Once again, great moral handling. So they all do dragon games. And eventually, all the dragons start being kinder to him. So, they take out Spike for a raid. They're going to steal eggs, and Spike is in charge of distracting the birds. The dragons try to steal the eggs, but it turns out they had hatched. And then...
Eggs have hatched.
What do we do now? We take the hatchlings, of course.
Jesus Christ! Thank God the characters were so one-dimensional and pointless that the hatchlings could outsmart them. There, Spike is nearly forced to commit murder. Then he decides to stand up to the dragons in a rather decent scene. So the dragons try to kill him, Spike is in danger, until Twilight, Rarity, and Rainbow Dash come to him. Then and there, the most epic battle of all time occurs. The battle that will last through... well, okay. This episode ends out with Spike kidnapping the last hatchling and learning that he should be a pony himself and not given the stereotypes. It's not a bad moral, but the execution sucks. I'm not going to reword myself, so I'm just going to finish this up. But besides the big moral issue, this episode is littered with plenty of problems I didn't touch. Rarity was flanderized, the plot was predictable, the characters were jerks, purple grass, and Spike kidnapped the bird. If you want to bring up any good in this episode, I actually have a couple things to admire. I like the scene where Spike looks into a mirror and cries, and I like the short adventure Spike has following the dragons. Also, this episode can be pretty funny. However, unlike Feeling Pinky King, where the humor is enough to save a badly worded moral from this list, the humor here doesn't do that much. There were some great jokes, I'll give it that. Let's continue.
Oh, Manhattan, what have I done? The thought of Fashion Week was fun.
Brace yourselves, we're going into the pile of crap. We've went over some bad episodes already. Some episodes with bad execution, annoying writing, and missed opportunities. These episodes here not only suffer from these flaws, but they are literally painful to watch. In the way where I feel stupid watching these episodes, we're going to see some insulting morals, fanfic level writing, and just plain unpleasantness. So go get a marathon of Avatar ready. You're going to need a quality bath. Alright, fasten your seatbelts, adjust the pressure. We're going in. First up, Ghostbusters. Jesus, I actually considered this episode being number 1 at some point. Yes, I hate it that much. But after a ton of thinking, I realized that it's only insulting my intelligence. Not insulting me as a person. Well, only a little bit. But anyway, I can already explain why this episode was so bad in one go. It was so horrendously abysmal that someone actually tried to fix it with Ne'er-do-well. However, we know that episode made the list. So yeah, this episode hurts to watch. The premise is that a unicorn named Trixie is hosting a magic show. She is bragging a bit, and the ponies are getting annoyed.
There's nothing wrong with being talented, is there?
Nothing at all. Except when someone goes around showing it off like a school filly with fancy new ribbons.
I'm not sure why they're bothered so much. She's just performing. What, you want her to perform in front of a large crowd of ponies and call herself the average and mediocre Trixie? A performer is supposed to exaggerate their talents to the audience. If it really bothers you so much, just leave. Staying there and complaining to her won't do anything important, except that she notices you and humiliates you. Listen, instead of making the moral of this episode don't show off, you can make it about dealing with the people who do. That'll make the annoying whining of the main 6 much more reasonable. Once Trixie bests Rainbow Dash, Applejack, and Rarity, Spike shows his ugly face. Throughout the episode, all Spike does is beg Twilight to show Trixie off, but Twilight doesn't want to because she thinks her friends will dislike her for showing off. And you know what? She could be right. The main 6 are portrayed like children in this episode. And let's not forget the new characters introduced. Well, first we have Trixie. I'm going to admit, I like Trixie. Correction, I like Trixie after Magic Duel. In this episode, she doesn't do anything really bad. She's just there. However, let's take a look at the other characters. Snips and Snails. Diamond Tiara's worst pony? How about these miserable excuses for characters? They're stupid. Anything else? No, they're just stupid. For a season where there were basically no boys at all, it was really nice Mr. Savino decided to portray men well.
The proof is in the pudding.
I like pudding.
Chris, you've only read in 2 episodes of the show. Stay at that number. We don't want any more. We don't want this. We want some interesting 3-dimensional characters who actually think. Snips and Snails summoned a f***ing monster to prove Trixie wasn't exaggerating. And because she was, she lost her job and was treated like dirt throughout Equestria. Great job.
Oh, Manhattan, what have I done? The thought of Fashion Week was fun.
I can't tell if Cory Powell's a good writer or not. Well, Rainbow Falls. I don't know where to start. That's why I'm planning an in-depth review down the line, so let's get to number 2.
Oh, Manhattan.
Alright, I'm kidding. But really, I feel like a kid in a candy store full of problems with an episode. I guess we'll tackle the big one first. This episode is so forced. I heard someone say that Cory Powell seems to adopt the writing styles of others. If this is true, this is basically Fullerton's worst episode she fully worked on. This episode is so forced the plot runs over actual logic to survive. Here's a picture. Do you see the problem here? Look a bit closer. Oh yeah! Fluttershy is part of an Olympic team. Okay? Do you see the crowds? Cheering?
Every pony's staring at you, judging you, jealously noting how they could be way better than you. Why wasn't it them? Why wasn't it them? And then, when you choke, they'll turn on you, becoming a seething, angry mob, and you'll be horribly humiliated, never able to show your face in Ponyville again!
Is it just me, or is there a serious logical gap here? And look on the other side. Snow, both biceps is there. Oh, that makes sense. Being a stallion who had 10.0 wing power from the beginning and getting to the Wonderbolts Academy. Wait, what the hell? What is this? Why? Not only do we have a stage-fearing, weak-flying Fluttershy, we have continuity so bad SpongeBob is blushing. Ugh. Speaking of Fluttershy being in a team, Powell tried to hide her lackluster writing with a small little excuse.
Good luck, Rainbow Dash. Sorry we couldn't fly with you on the aerial relay, but the air sprinters needed us too.
Too bad we can only compete in one event.
So, that only excuses those characters, not every Pegasus ever. If Fluttershy's in a fucking Olympic competition, it's safe to assume every Pegasus is joining the games. And the plot holes continue. Hey look, the Wonderbolts are being backstabbing lying cheaters. Wait, what? Yeah, real honorable top tier team that has their own military academy. Alright, how about we get to the premise of the story? Alright, the main problem is that Rainbow can't choose between the cool people or her friends. She leans on both sides for a while, and once the conflict is introduced, we already know how it will end. Rainbow chooses her friends, and the Wonderbolts become good, and everything is sunshine and rainbows. Oh. But yeah, that's how the conflict ends and the moral is presented. Speaking of the moral, it's uncreative. No, being loyal isn't a bad moral, but for a key episode, it's lacking. In all the other key episodes, the main 6 were learning more than just their element. They were learning it again with a twist. Rarity didn't learn to be generous. She learned not to let your generosity fade when some pony takes advantage of it. Pinkie Pie didn't learn to entertain and laugh. She learned that if someone does your calling better than you, you aren't automatically bad, and in fact, it's a new time to improve. Applejack didn't learn to be honest. She learned being honest should always come first, even if the truth hurts. And Fluttershy didn't learn to be kind. She learned that sometimes saying no is the kind way to handle problems. But Rainbow Dash learned, be loyal to your friends. Fine. The character portrayals were abysmal. We already talked about the Wonderbolts. Pinkie Pie is obnoxious as hell. Applejack won't shut up about her little apple chocolate cake things. Fluttershy is enjoying an Olympic event. Rarity has no sense of any logic whatsoever. And Rainbow Dash is arrogant and obnoxious. The only likable character is Twilight, as she is the only character with a shade of intelligence and decency.
If you fly for Cloudsdale, Pinkie Pie won't have any pony to cheer for. Rarity's uniforms will never be seen, and Applejack will have slaved over those apple brown Betties for nothing.
Okay, Caps Lock is back on. Pinkie Pie has no one to cheer for. How about abandoning your whole town? How about not ditching your friends? Jesus Christ! God, this episode, in my opinion, is the worst rated episode. The only thing saving it from getting in the top 2 is that the moral isn't bad. It's just lazy. When Griffins are the highlight of your episode, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, Manhattan, what have I done? The thought of Fashion Week was fun.
Well, here's the big one. I've heard so many differing opinions on this episode, it's crazy. Many people call it the worst episode ever. Now others call it the episode where Fluttershy finally does something. Putting your hoof down. Never have I seen something so mean-spirited, so abysmal, and so crude from this show. It's a mess. That's all it is. It's a mess of lackluster writing, defying logic, hypocrisy, and just mean spirit. The story is that Fluttershy doesn't want to be walked all over. It starts out with Fluttershy feeding her animals. Angel Bunny doesn't want what everyone else is having, and he smacks a bull on her head. I'm not going to complain right there, because this is just scratching the surface. So, Fluttershy rewards him. She gives him something new, and he throws it away. He shows Fluttershy what he wants, but she doesn't think she can make it. So, she offers him a what? Oh my... I'm out. Fine. Great slapstick. I'm laughing. Jesus Christ. Can someone cook that bunny? I don't care if PETA gets all over me. Someone kill that rabbit. Speaking of the rabbit, Fluttershy eventually gets him what he wants, minus the cherry after a scene I'll cover in a sec. And he throws her out of the house. Okay, so the scene I skipped. Fluttershy is buying stuff for the demon, but suddenly every pony in existence is a jerk. Cutting lines, taking advantage of desperation, ugh. Fluttershy can't stand up for herself, so Pinkie and Rarity manipulate the jerks to get Fluttershy what she wants. Problem: Pinkie Pie is manipulating someone for having a high price. So, what's the problem? If she wants to sell her stuff for way too much, she should be able to. Though I do admit that joke was funny. However, it's not saving anything. So after Fluttershy gets thrown out of her own house, she goes to Iron Will's workshop. We get some undeserved slapstick, and then suddenly Fluttershy enjoys hurting people. The next day, Fluttershy goes AWOL and beats the crap out of people for making small little mistakes. By the way, anyone notice all the jerks are gone? Well, almost all of them. The closest thing to justifiable of Fluttershy's outcry is against the line skipper. After Fluttershy beats the living crap out of a tourist for accidentally making her drop something, Pinkie Pie and Rarity confront her and... just watch.
Things getting too complicated for your simple little brain, Pinkie Pie?
Now, stop right there! Let's not let things descend into petty insults.
Why not? I thought petty was what you're all about, Rarity, with your petty concerns about fashion. Hey, leave her alone! Fashion is her passion! Oh, and what are you passionate about? Birthday cake? Party hats? I can't believe that the two most frivolous ponies in Ponyville are trying to tell new Fluttershy how to live her life when they are throwing their own lives away on pointless pursuits that no pony else gives a flying feather about!
I don't know what to say. Did you just see that? Fluttershy, the element of kindness, for God's sakes, just told her friends she finds no meaning in them, and she plays off their insecurities. I don't... Why? So Fluttershy looks into a puddle and suddenly realizes that she did something wrong, and suddenly becomes good again because we have 5 minutes left. She goes into a depression, and since Rarity and Pinkie Pie are good friends or some BS, they come back. They say that Iron Will turned her into a jerk. Was I the one who sliced that woman into pieces and then ate off all of her flesh and organs? Yeah, but it's not my fault. The guy who taught me how to slice should be arrested. You see where I'm coming from, right? So, Iron Will comes for his payment, and Pinkie Pie and Rarity try to stop him with repeated jokes. He breaks down the door, and Fluttershy denies paying him because she wasn't satisfied. He gives up, and everything is happy again. I hate this episode. Every time I see these lovely characters hug, care for each other, and even fight a bit. This episode gets worse. Every time I care for these characters a tiny bit more, this episode hurts a bit more. What I'm saying is, this episode doesn't deserve to exist. It feels like the anti-episode. In a show about expressing the love and tolerance of friendship, we can get this episode that has Fluttershy tell Rarity and Pinkie Pie that their life has no purpose. I'm sick of talking about this episode. I can't believe it. We have an episode worse than this. Let's get this over with.
Now alone I stand, and now alone I stand.
Oh boy, we're at number 1. After a 10-day vacation in Europe, I finally write this entry. I have chills down my spine right now. This is an episode so horrendous that it doesn't hurt my intelligence. It's not really mean-spirited. It literally plays out the problems in our society and tries to arrogantly fix it. This episode hurts me, hurts my friends. I can't stand it. It spreads unintentional hate around. It grows and grows. I guess you can say it's a bad seed. One bad episode, right? I'm sorry. So yeah, I hate this episode with a burning passion. Being a victim of bullying myself, I feel so much hatred for this episode. The sad thing is, this insult could have been amazing. When you have Cindy Morrow write an episode about social issues, you expect something great. Hurricane Fluttershy, anyone? But then she you know what? We'll get to that in a bit. Let me just say this episode isn't that bad. Well, until the last few minutes. The episode is about Apple wanting to meet her new cousin Babs, but Babs ends up being a bully. So, while she's being a horrible pony, they throw around the idea of telling on her, but they decide not to. So, they decide to get revenge on her. Doesn't it seem like a bad episode so far, right? Well, not too bad. But to this episode's credit, the song is catchy, I guess. The CMC decided to build a float modeled for Babs, just so she can steal it and fall for their booby trap. Suddenly, Applejack comes in and tells the CMC it was so kind of them to let Babs into their float. She appreciated them being so nice to her, and that Babs was being bullied back in Manhattan. You're kidding me, right? You have to be kidding me. Babs is suddenly a victim even though she abandoned her friends with basically no remorse and had such a sadistic smirk whenever she bullied the CMC. She's the victim? If a serial killer kills 200 people with no remorse, will everything be okay just because his parents were abusive? Is that what you're saying? Wait, no, the CMC are wrong to take a stand against her because suddenly they're the bullies. But weren't they bullied? Apparently that means they're allowed to bully. I should stop saying bully. Ugh, I'm being a bully to my sanity. Alright. But honestly, that creates a never-ending shame. But whatever, the CMC join Pinkie's float, and Babs pushes their float down to the hill. Suddenly, a confusing joke appears. Honestly, I don't see the humor in that. I've seen people laugh like crazy because of it, but I don't get it. Now, if you think this joke is funny, I don't judge. Can you just explain it to me? The best guess I can come up with is the randomness. Anyway, the CMC save Babs, and they get booby-trapped by themselves. Babs appreciates their self-sacrifice, so she suddenly turns off bully mode, and everyone says they're sorry.
You know, this all could have been avoided if y'all just came to me in the very beginning.
Wait, what? 1. When Diamond Tiara came after and started being a jerk, you did nothing. 2, and more importantly, this moral is insulting, in every way. I am honestly offended by this moral in so many ways. Telling an adult will make them use their magical bully stop powers and everything will be okay. Is that how it is? Because it isn't. True, maybe some bullies will back off after an adult is alerted, but people will start thinking different of you. This moral insults the poor bullying victims who had their guardians do nothing but their problem. Hell, when I stopped trying to deal with my bullying myself, I almost got suspended from school because I was talking back to him. It's not only that the moral is confused, I really hate how pretentious this episode is. Bullying is a serious problem that can't be fixed simply. Such an issue being treated so mundane hurts me as a bullying victim and many others. I have so many friends who have considered suicide and even cut because they're in a trap of bullying. Hell, some have attempted suicide. This whole moral being so treated so mellow is the reason I hate this episode so much. We could have a real mature moral about how bullying is a complicated problem with no clear answer, but instead we got a lazy bullying episode with a reprehensible moral. Yeah, because the life is about answers. Now if you excuse me, my quality bath is waiting.